Hi there everyone, and I have a classic chess game to show you in today. So we have Aron Nimzowitsch with the white pieces, one of the strongest chess players in the late 1920s, one of the leading chess players at the time, and his opponent Jose Raul Capablanca with the black pieces, the legend of chess and the third official world chess champion. So, this chess game was played in 1927 in New York. And this is quite a classic chess game, so let's see what happened. But I want to check out this chess game from the perspective of Capablanca. So let's quickly check out. We have the Caro-Kann defense, advanced variation, bishop to f5, bishop to d3. And Capablanca, without any hesitation, he captured the bishop and exchanges the bishops. And we have this position, and it looks like a French defense position. So black naturally wants to push the pawn and develop his bishop. And the good news for Capablanca in this position is that he doesn't have the bad bishop usually we see in a French defense position. So which is also known as French bishop. So Capablanca is getting rid of that bishop with capturing, and this is actually quite a good French defense position for black without that weak bishop. So knight from g to e2 and then c5. So takes, and white castled. Knight to e7, developing the knight to a4, queen to c6, capturing the bishop, and then bishop to e3, defending the queen, and still black actually is doing okay, and white is also fine. So f4 and then knight to f5. Now maybe retreating the bishop to f2 would be better, but for some reason Nimzowitsch played c3. Knight takes bishop, queen takes knight, and then queen takes on c2 is not even possible because of rook to c1 and then rook to c8. But still, c3, it looks like a time-wasting move. Bishop to f2 would be more solid. Knight to f5 and then c3, developing the knight to c6, and then rook over g6, and Capablanca is basically provoking his opponent to push his pawn, and it happened. g4 by Aron Nimzowitsch, and this is creating a permanent weakness. Better move would be again bishop to f2, and bishop to f2 is still not too late, but we have g4, and Capablanca simply captures the bishop. Queen takes on e3 and then h5, not even considering the castle right now. And we have g5. If capturing the pawn, this has a downside for white because of rook takes on h5, and basically black can double on the h file, and there is going to be big pressure from the h file, and you can see that there are some weaknesses in the light squares for white. So the king's safety has been compromised a little bit in this position. So after queen takes on e3, Capablanca pushed the h-pawn, a very good move. But Nimzowitsch is closing g5. But positionally speaking, actually this is also not very good for white, which has some downsides. Because now black can consider knight to e7, and then knight to f5, and f5 square is going to be a perfect parking spot for the knight. So it created some weaknesses in the light squares, especially for white. So again, as you can see, pushing this pawn created permanent weakness for white, as the pawns can't go back. So that was the downside for Aron Nimzowitsch. So black is slightly better in this position because of that. And also, look at this position after g5, Capablanca simply castled, and how to rip open the king and attack the king. It is not going to be easy because black has very solid grip on f5. So how to open and attack the king? It's not going to be easy without sacrificing material. So already Capablanca is very solid. So Capablanca was always a very solid positional player, but at the same time his chess games are so elegant, exquisite, and easy to understand, as he liked to simplify the game and win in a very simple way. So knight to d4 and then queen to b6, pinning the knight, rook to f2 and then rook over, a3, so it looks like a waiting move. And now again, white has some weaknesses. Potentially this f-pawn, h-pawn and the b-pawn is going to be a target for black. When we think in a simplified position, of course, those pawns are going to be vulnerable in a potential simplified endgame. So this is basically Capablanca's territory. Lifting to rook, rook to d3, knight to f5, knight to a5, and Capablanca is targeting this time on c4. So black has some pleasant choices. Rook to e2 and then rook over, king to g2 and knight to c6, and we have rook from e to d2, shuffling around a little bit, rook to e2 and then knight to e7. So Capablanca is planning rook to c4 and then knight to f5, and there is going to be big pressure on d4. So you can see that white doesn't have any creative ideas and simply rook to c4. So positionally black is better, of course. Queen to h3 and king to g7, rook to f2. These moves are just waiting moves, and then a5, rook to e2, and finally knight to f5, and basically threatening knight takes knight, pawn takes, rook takes, and just white's position is simply falling apart. So Nimzowitsch captured the knight and Capablanca captured back with the g-pawn, and it looks like the h-pawn is going to fall. But we have queen to f3. If capturing the pawn, this move has a downside. Now Capablanca is a pawn down in this possible continuation, but then rook to h8 was his idea. After queen to f3, what else? Rook to h4, infiltrating with the rook, and you can't defend this f-pawn. It is just simply falling apart. So white's position is collapsing and there is no good defense. So holding this position together is pretty difficult. Queen to f3, so king up, rook over, and then rook to e4, and Capablanca wants to double his rooks on the fourth rank, and again it is going to be very difficult to defend. So rook to d4 because of that, but simply rook to c4 by Capablanca and threatening to take the rook. So pawn takes, rook takes, and again it is falling apart. So queen to f2, unpinning, king to g3, and it also looks like white doesn't have any creative idea, so moving the king, and then Capablanca played simply simplifying the game, typical Capablanca. And how white is going to take the rook. We have c takes on d4, not rook takes on d4. Can you see what happens? Then rook to e2, and after defending the queen, queen takes on b2 again. White's position is collapsing. So holding this position together is extremely difficult. Rook takes, pawn takes, but again, this time the h-pawn, f-pawn, d-pawn, and also the b-pawn is going to be potential targets for Capablanca, and defending all of them is not going to be easy. And Capablanca slowly wants to improve his position, infiltrate, and then attack his opponent. And white really doesn't have anything to do. So we are going to reach a very famous Zugzwang position in this chess game. So queen to c4, king to g2, and then b5, king to g1, b4, takes, king to g2. Look at this. Nimzowitsch is just moving his king because he is just simply stuck. Queen to c1, king to g3, and simply infiltrating with the queen, and also rook to e1 is on the cards. Rook to d3, rook to e1, and this is just all over. Rook to f3, it's almost Zugzwang. Rook to d1, b3, rook to c1, and this is the Zugzwang position. And whatever white does, white is lost. That's what Zugzwang means. So this is a losing position now. Nimzowitsch played a move, and after Capablanca's next move, he resigned. Rook to f1, and it's just game over. Okay, so the possible continuation, if defending the queen, let's say queen to g2, it is going to pin the queen to the king. Or basically white is getting checkmated. So for example, if queen to e2, actually what else? Then we have check, and if king to h3, then this move is very strong. So both threatening queen takes on h2 and attacking the queen. White has to give up the queen. But then queen to g4, it's just game over. So most definitely queen to e2 is not a good move. And if king to h4 in this position, can you see what happens? It is black to move. So this is a very simple, a very elementary level chess problem. So it looks like white is also attacking on h5. But even if queen takes on h5, king to g7, queen to h6, king to g8, and there is nothing else actually, that's losing for white, but there is a very accurate move for black in this position. Can you see that? Let me give you a few seconds. This is just a small chess puzzle. Okay, rook to f3, blocking the queen and threatening to play queen to g4, checkmate. So if pushing the pawn, queen to g3, if rook takes, queen to g4, and if queen takes, check, only defense, and then queen takes on f4, queen to g4, checkmate. There is no defense. So basically, whatever white does, white is lost in this famous Zugzwang position. So rook to c1, and this is Zugzwang, and after rook to f1, Aron Nimzowitsch resigned. So Nimzowitsch is known for creating these kinds of Zugzwang positions against his opponents, but in this game, basically Capablanca is making Nimzowitsch tasting his own medicine. So Nimzowitsch himself find himself in a Zugzwang position, a terrible position for white. That's what happens when you play against Capablanca. So, okay, I hope you have enjoyed watching this game. I tried to commentate this game with the most brief and simple way possible. Of course, there are so many different variations, deep ideas that one can commentate when commentating this chess game. But I tried my best to explain this game. I hope you enjoyed watching this game, and I hope to see you next time. So this is how Capablanca defeated Nimzowitsch. Okay, so, and basically Nimzowitsch never defeated Capablanca in his chess career, in his lifetime. Never, not even one time, but they drew multiple times. But I think Capablanca defeated Nimzowitsch 5-0. So Okay, stay safe, take care, and bye bye.